You're listening to Ravinheart Renditions, a woodworking podcast. Visit us at ravinheartrenditions.com or go to ravinheart.com and click on the woodworking link. You can subscribe via iTunes or get updates various ways through the site. Follow me on Twitter, username Ravinheart. On this episode, Matt and I talk about woodworking in America. So, hey Matt, the theme for this month is a little different than it's been previously. We're kind of continuing the shop maintenance thing, considering that my last month was, not in the shop. I was building a group home. But we're also going to do kind of an inspirational thing because it's revolving around woodworking in America. And the book this month is actually studio furniture. And it's from one of the museums. And we got a line on a couple of them, so hopefully one of them fall through that we can actually talk to one of the artists in the book, and there is some amazing stuff in there. So
I bet studio furniture is a whole different realm, you know. I mean, I'm blown away by it. It's one of those things. I look at it, I'm like, I'm getting to that point where I want to try something a little bit more than just shaker, or then I start thinking like, oh, arts and crafts is so, it's got nice flowing lines, stuff like that. And then I look at studio furniture and I'm just like, what? Where did they get that? I didn't know you could do that to wood.
I know. The stuff in this book is just, I don't know if I ever in my life will be able to build something as beautiful as the things in these pages. But if nothing else, it's just like my trip down to Woodworking America this year was. It's an inspirational book. You look at that and you're like, even if you don't like the piece you're looking at, there's a piece of that you can say, hey, that one joint would be perfect and change the table altogether. Or if I made the foot that way, this chair would look entirely, anything, little pieces of it. It's more of an inspirational thing than anything, and it's beautiful stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean that's like there's a book out, 500 Chairs or something like that, and I remember seeing that once, and that was just like, oh my god,
yeah.
It's amazing,
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that they come up with, and it's so unique, but the thing that you really have to think about is like, they really study like what wood is going to work best for like getting this shape,
yeah.
or what would be the best way to do this? Is it laminated? Is it steam bent? And again, kind of getting into the materials. What's going to do it this way, and how can I do this? And what amazes me is when you see something really light and airy, and just something that's just so unique. I mean, not even unique, just tiny.
Yeah.
But yet it can hold, the way it's designed and stuff, it can hold like somebody like me. And it's just like, what?
The stuff, and I'm really hoping that the guy that teaches down in Madison is there's one. I'm not going to mention any names because I'm trying to talk to a few people to see if we can talk to more than one, but hopefully at least one of the artists that we can get a little conversation with. I've been in the museum that he helped design and all this, and I'm like, if I could get to talk to him, considering I'm in the Midwest and so is he, I'm like, maybe I can actually go and talk to this guy. This would be awesome. But the stuff they have to know. I mean, a lot of them, like Sam Malouf's rockers and a lot of his chairs are in this book, because it's stuff that's in the Smithsonian or has been in a Smithsonian in certain exhibits, and it's just beautiful furniture. And like Sam's are all wood. And most of these in this book are almost all wood, but some of them incorporate all these other things. I'm like, the amount of knowledge you have to have about wood, the properties of wood, the grain, the tools to do this stuff with, and then other stuff like metals and plastics that they incorporate in it and everything else. I'm like, how do you even accumulate that kind of knowledge in the time that they've done this? It's just amazing.
Right, yeah, exactly. Oh, I know. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of those things that, again, like somewhere down the line, I want to finally get to that point where I feel comfortable enough to maybe try it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still look at it and it intimidates the living daylights out of me.
Oh, I think even if I get to the point where I'm going to try it, it's still going to intimidate the hell out of me.
Yeah, let nobody think that somehow when I try it, I'm going to be going into this thing like completely confident. I'm going to be going into this thing as if I've never picked up a tool or touched wood before. It will be absolutely the most nerve-wracking thing I ever do. I'll be sweating so much that they'll be like, listen, you're getting, you'll be doing your own steam bending just by your hands because they're so hot and sweaty.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like I made a rocking chair, and it was the very first chair that I ever decided to make. I never made a chair prior to this. My daughter wanted a rocking chair. I didn't think about it. I just did it. I thought, worst case, I screw it up and I need to buy more wood. I don't care. She wanted a rocking chair. She spent 3 hours looking through magazines. She normally it sits down for 5 minutes. I'm building her a damn rocking chair.
There you go. Yeah.
So, and I built it and it turned out really nice. I hate the finish on it, but the construction is perfect. I didn't pick the finish, so I can't say anything about that. But the construction is perfect and it's wonderful and I love it. And it's like, okay, if I ever get to the point where I'm going to try one of these, it has to be, I'm going to try it. And if I screw it up, I'm going to buy more wood.
There you go. Yeah. Well, it's so funny because you mentioned the Maloof style rockers and stuff, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about this as the show goes on with Woodworking in America.
Yeah.
But I ended up attending just a couple of the Charles Brock lectures.
Yep.
And Charles Brock makes if anybody's not aware of this, he makes a Maloof style rocker. There's a lot of controversy about that because, there are other people out there making Maloof style rockers or things that are Maloof inspired.
Yeah.
And that's such a huge thing. I mean, it's amazing how semantics can get in such the way with stuff like that. And people get really, really touchy about it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a whole other show by itself. We won't even go into that. But watching him up there and seeing how he was doing these things, it was really cool, and it was actually very inspiring to the point where I'm like, I really was like kind of like talking with the guys from Highland Woodworking about we got to work something out because I really want to try that Maloof rocker build, and I know he's got some classes coming up and stuff, and it's like I need to get myself down there, and I had a chance to talk with Charles Brock, and we didn't really get into like, how he works the thing, stuff like that. But he's just a nice guy. He's really, really great, very easy to approach. But again, you watch what he's doing, and he's talking about like, the approach to it and how he goes about it and how there are certain steps and you can't get, ahead of step one. You can't suddenly jump to like step two because, it looks like it's really easy and then jump to, all over the place and then come back. And that's why I wonder a lot of times with this studio furniture, sometimes I think it's like
it's got
when
to
they're
be a
designing
process,
it. Yeah, when they're designing it, how do you go through those process of like, okay, I need to do this first, I need to do this. I mean, with a lot of woodworking, it's just like one of those, just get my saw so that I can cut the shape.
Yeah. Well,
go this way or that way.
when I look at it a lot like when I did the rocking chair and the process that Charles Brock was talking about, I actually had a chance to sit up front in one of those seminars too, so I was right there getting dust on me and everything. It was awesome. But it's like the group home build that we're doing and that stuff. There's always these. Okay, you have to do A to get to B to get to C to get to and it's like if your mind works that way, and the way that studio furniture is, you got to build one thing or the other. If you have this, if you have the skill those people have and the knowledge, okay, I got a long time before I get there, but
join the club.
the mindset of being able to take the process and break it down into little pieces, that part I can do.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Even then, I think maybe I'm horrible about following instructions. If anybody ever watched the Breeze hand plane that I did, and then suddenly you see like halfway through it, I go, oh, wait a minute.
You're supposed to do this part first. Don't do it this way.
Oops. I don't know how that happened.
I'm the one that takes the instructions and puts it all out and reads through the whole thing and says, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm going to change this one and this one, and I'm going to change this, and it's going to look different now because I'm not building it the way you tell me to.
There you go. That's the beauty of home woodworking.
Yeah, I love it.
Of custom woodworking. I put my little spin on it my own way.
Yep, yeah. Oh, that's like the rocking chair. My daughter found a plan and a picture in a book, and that's great. But there is no way I'm building that exact thing. The seat slats were straight. I want them to curve. The back was straight. I made them flare out on the bottom, and then I layered them where it was walnut in the front, maple in the back, so it turns a color. There's a stripe up each leg. I'm like, it's for a kid. I actually put the grain weird on purpose and put stain over it so the grain popped out, sanded down some of it so you still got the weird grain lines in it, and
Okay.
then put finish on it. So I'm like, this isn't going to be the book one. It's going to be specialized for you.
Exactly. Yes. I know that's what like one of those. Hey, didn't you see the photo I gave you? Yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, I did. I didn't like it.
Yeah. Doesn't this look cool?
This is better, trust me.
Yeah. Why'd you do it like this? Because it came out that way.
I did not goof. It was supposed to be that way. And no matter what you say, it's supposed to be that way.
Exactly. Yeah. Photos are just for reference.
Yep.
They're not for necessarily following.
Yep.
Oh, that's funny though.
Um, so, so did you get? I have to ask because I did way too much. Did you get to pick anything up at the marketplace?
Yeah, what didn't I pick up? I think pretty much everything that was there has my fingerprints at some point all over it. And what is this? What is this? What do I do with this? How do you do this? How much is this? What do I get? Can I get it at home? Can I get it now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's and because the marketplace is just again for anybody that's never been there, it is the most dangerous place in the
Oh
world.
God, yes. My pocketbook got hurt this year.
I have to say somehow I have managed to have enough willpower the last 2 years. Okay, this year to not walk away with something, and a lot of it had to do with I didn't want to have to check a bag when I got to
Well,
the airport.
see that maybe that's my thing. I need to fly down because I rented a car and I'm like,
Okay.
screw it. I'm not taking the truck because it has over 200,000 miles on it. I'm not driving that thing down there, so I just rent a car. Heck with it, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
I had a big
Yeah.
trunk. I mean, you could fit stuff in there.
Yeah. If you put this down the right way, you leave the window open, you can get wood home, and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
And
as long as it don't
yeah,
rain, we're good to go.
yeah, exactly. And luckily for us, we were headed in the direction the rain already passed, where everybody else that was heading out to the East Coast, I heard they got soaked.
Yeah, I heard about Shannon taking a ride home, getting some serious weather on the way home. I was going pretty much straight north and a little bit west, so I had clear sailing the whole way home. I had a little bit of rain for about 15 minutes. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, when I was flying, I don't think I saw anything.
Oh,
Maybe I saw like a little cloud or something here or there,
yeah,
but
it rains when you're flying. They just go, well, we're going above this now.
that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's like, oh, look at all those dark clouds below me.
Yeah, it's like,
You know,
okay, hold on, we're going a little higher, folks.
yeah, that's exactly it. A little bumpy. Well, but going back to the whole thing with the marketplace, that was one of those things. It's so neat because there's these tool vendors that uh, you typically might see like an article about them, and be talking about just how amazing this is, how it's a one-off here and there. They only make a few at a time, and then what really gets you is the sticker price. When you're seeing the articles like online or you're seeing them in a magazine or something like that, you look at it and go, who in their right mind would pay $200 for this specialized chisel? You don't need it. That's ridiculous. But the second you get in that marketplace, the second you stand in front of that
Well,
booth,
you pick
the
that up
second
and you need it.
yeah,
Not,
you're
you don't
like,
just need it. You need it now.
yeah, you're like, only 200, really? Wow. Are you sure you're making any money off of this? Because this is just, I don't think I can put it down. I'm gonna have to take it right now. Yeah, it's
And the worst is you get a chance to actually use it at Woodworking America. You don't just
that,
pick it up and look at it. You put it to the wood and you
yeah.
do something with it, and then you're sold. And they know that.
Yeah, yeah, but not only do they know it though, but the thing is, well, they know it. Yeah, you're right. They absolutely do know it because they're like, that's the thing is they're like, I just got to get this guy in here, and they're all set. As soon as I get this person in here, we're golden. But the great thing about it though is the fact that you have the person that just made it, and they can tell you these subtle little things that maybe if you ordered it and they send it to you, without ever meeting them in person, that they'll send you like the little thing that's like, okay, the best way to use this, I recommend blah 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 blah. But when you meet them in person, it's like you're right, you get to try it out right there, and suddenly they're like, oh. Now just hold it like this, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it just did that.
Well, and that's what got me with I actually picked up what they call their 10-inch dovetail saw from Bad Axe Tools.
Oh,
Um,
Bad Axe Tool is really they're
well,
getting on. It's going to become a four-letter word, even though it's only three or six.
yeah.
But
Well, come to find out, they're across the state from me. They're
oh,
they're
really?
actually in Wisconsin. So I told him, I said, so when I need to sharpen, I can come over there, right? And he said, yep.
Stop on by. We'll be. You know what? And while you're here, we'll let you hold a few other
I
saws.
know, but I mean, I had went with the intention of looking at some of the antique saws and picking up a couple of them. probably like, a carcass saw, dovetail saw. I'm getting more and more and more into hand tools, and I've got, all but maybe one or two planes that I want to have. I have, I had a crappy pair of chisels, which I'll tell you about that in a little while. And the only thing I have a really nice 30-inch hand miter box, and I mean, and there's no way you're going to cut something small with a 30-inch saw, And I just wanted something for on the bench and doing some things, and I thought I'll go check these guys out, and instead of getting the other ones, I'll see what they are. Yeah, it is not a cheap saw, but as soon as you cut with it, you have to have this saw.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It is absolutely amazing. I mean, he does a fantastic job with those saws. But the best thing about it was that Woodworking America is you not only like you were able to order the saw stuff like that. He did it all right there for
Oh
you.
yeah, and the thing was that I'm one of them where I want to touch it, feel it, and take it home. So I tried the saw, and I told I can't remember the guy that was helping his name right now, but I told him, I said, I want this saw. And he goes, well, we'll get one ordered up for you. Let's get your address. I said, no, you don't understand. I cut with this saw. I want this exact saw. I think this is perfect. And he goes, let me talk to somebody. We might be able to work something out. So pretty much they said, come back tomorrow. We'll give us a time. We'll make sure that we true it up. We'll sharpen it and everything. You can take it home tonight, and we'll give you a show discount. And I'm like, sounds good to me.
Yeah. And I will gladly accept that. Thank you.
And I got a saw. And I have cut things a lot since I've been home. I didn't need to cut them, but it's wonderful.
You've cut them because you could.
Yeah. And the chisels that I picked up, I forever have been using, and I hang my head when I say this, a Harbor Freight set of chisels.
I think we're gonna have to end this phone call right now.
And everybody knows how they work. I sharpen them up really nice, and I hit them twice when I'm doing something, and then I sharpen them up really nice again.
Yeah.
So I did not even see their booth until my last time on the way from the bathroom toward the door. I was going to be leaving, and I seen the Two Cherries booth.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh, that.
And I now have a set of Two Cherries chisels because I have been looking for a full set of them for so long, and they had them there at a good show price, and they're hung up on the rack. And the Harbor Freight ones, I'm not even sure where they went to anymore.
Yeah. They're outside for opening paint cans with.
Yeah, but these things, and I haven't had a chance to actually build anything since Woodworking America, but I've been down here, tweaking my planes and playing with the saw and the chisels, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait till I have a project that I can actually work on instead of.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a chance to talk with the guys, the folks from Two Cherries, and I know it's funny because I remember years ago, like looking at their chisels, and when I was gonna get like my first decent set, it was like one of those. I'm like, oh, I really want to get those. I remember like looking at the price, and that was back in those days where it's like, why would I want to pay that for this when I can get this over here? And I have an old set of marbles which work fine right now, but I am thinking I definitely need to. I want to get like a much nicer set. And after talking with them and hearing some of the things they had to say, and actually having a chance to get, like you said, you could have manhandle these things. They're back on the top of my list, and they're just there's some really neat folks there and everything, and it's pretty neat. But again, that's the beauty of like Woodworking in America is in the marketplace. You get a chance to talk with all of these people. I mean, even like the Lee Nielsen's and Lee Valley, the guys there were just, you had any question at all, especially Lee Nielsen. I mean, they've got all the benches set up, and they're just like, yeah, take that, do this, do this, do this.
Give it a shot.
You're not holding it right. Do it like this, and there you go. And it's just, and again, but the main thing is the fact that they're all so damn approachable.
Oh, yeah.
That's the big thing. It's unbelievable how they're so willing to answer your questions.
Yeah.
No matter how ridiculous they are.
Yeah. The Lee Nielsen and Lee Valley, Bad Axe Tools was just amazing. The way they basically had a whole saw making workshop.
Yeah.
Right there in their booth, and then a whole area where you could try anything you wanted, and I actually seen people buy stuff from Patrick Leach down a couple booths down, take it over and say, can you sharpen this for me? He gave them a price, and they sharpened it up by the time they're ready to leave the marketplace. I mean, you don't get anybody else better to sharpen your saw.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh wow. Yeah, I didn't know he was doing that. Otherwise, I would have been like, "Hey, Patrick."
Yeah, there was a couple of them that he did that, and I was like, "Holy cow!" Oh man.
I didn't know you could bring your own.
Yeah, it was truly amazing show. I mean what else did I end up picking up? Oh, I finally got a set of the grippers from Microjig.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yep, and I mean those guys. I've actually seen them at the Milwaukee show, a couple other places. I've been thinking about it and thinking about it. I'm like, it's woodworking in America. I came down here with so much. It's like Vegas. I'm not going home with this.
Exactly. Oh yeah, and Bruce and those guys. I mean, Bruce and his dad. They're hilarious. Because they're such the salespeople.
Oh yeah.
But they make a product that's worth buying.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, I mean, it just really. Ever since I had my little incident with a router bit not too long ago, and then I put it on the router table, and I'm like, I have this thing now that if I'm using my regular push pads or I'm using just like a regular push stick, if it's down below that level that I feel like I would have with the gripper, I get really nervous.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
these things. I mean, I cut small strips. I make my own edge banding, not edge banding, but no, it escapes me right now. But the for putting into a rabbit.
Oh, like splines and stuff like
Well,
that.
not even the splines, but like the decorative stuff along the edge.
Okay.
Why can't I
Yeah,
think the
the
name?
inlay.
Inlay, yeah, my own inlays for banding and stuff like that. And to make them small strips, I've been using, wood blocks with you cut them just right, and then you make 2 or 3 cuts, and you got to make another one. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm buying these things. It's a heck of a lot safer.
Yeah.
And like it's so. And on the guy from Bow Clamps, I ended up buying a big set of them. That's one of them where I'm like, I could make these myself.
But he's got them already made for me.
And they sure the heck ain't gonna be this nice.
I know. I was hanging out at his booth and I was watching his demonstration. And I thought the same exact thing. And it was another one of those like, the set I really want is not going to fit in my carry-on, and I think they would look kind of funny at me if I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" No, these are a couple pieces of wood. No, seriously, they're not just lumber. They're I'm just bringing this stuff home. So it's like that's one of those. I guess I'm gonna have to. I guess I have to order those when I get home.
Yep. I'm like, do I really need them? No, but you know what? It's a damn good idea, and it saves me a day of dinking around. I don't care. I'm buying them. I think they're great.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's one of those where some people might be hearing this and be like, "Oh, so the marketplace is like just like a big trap, where you got to get in, they're just gonna suck your money out." Which part of it is true, but it's going for something that you just having it in front of you, having a chance to talk with the person, all this other stuff.
It makes a huge difference.
It does. It makes a gigantic difference.
Everything that I got. The only other thing I got was I actually picked up. It's equivalent to a Stanley 45, but it's a record 405. I actually like.
Oh yes, I remember watching you walk around with that box.
Yes,
I was thinking,
that is a big box.
Looks like Andrew's too afraid to take that back to the hotel room so somebody could be following him.
Yeah, for some reason I like the record stuff. I don't even know why, but you look at them, they're exactly the same as far as construction, use, and everything else. And it's in immaculate condition. It came with the screwdriver that comes with it. The box that the blades are in and everything else. And it wasn't the crazy collector price that you'd normally see this stuff for. I mean, it was a really decent price for the plane that's still in the box with the original book, and half of the stuff is still wrapped in the original paper.
That's crazy that it's still available. Did you get that from Patrick Leach?
Yep, got it from Patrick Leach.
I'm like, I'm trying to think of. I was thinking of all the booths, and I'm like, who the hell could have that? Yeah, it's got to be Patrick.
It was Patrick, and it was, and I told him, I said, he had a price, and I said, I don't want to pay that much. He goes, how about this? Okay, good.
And that's the thing is, if people aren't familiar with Patrick Leach, he has an amazing website. Well, he has a couple of websites. One of them is called Patrick's like Blood and Gore, and it's like Superior Toolworks, I think, is another one. And he has tools for sale, much like he has this booth there. But when you walk in, his booth has always been like one of the first ones right up front. and it's chock full of it's like going to like the tool flea market and having that one booth that you're just like, oh my god,
Oh yeah.
where did this stuff come from? And he has like antique infill planes, and he has like just a ton of, I've never seen that many Stanleys lined up, and I don't know where, and and everything's like it is all sorts of condition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a box of mortising chisels. What size you want?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and what
there's
how
almost
old
like
you
like
want.
a yeah, and there's almost like a barrel off to the side that's like looking for drill bits.
Yeah.
There's your auger bits right there for your bit and brace. Oh, you don't have a bit and brace? I've got like 18 of them over there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're looking for what? I've got those in the back. And it's just, yeah, you're just like, this is unbelievable. He had a couple of infill planes that were just like, where did you find these?
Oh yeah, he's got some, and I've ordered stuff. Actually, I got stuff from him last year. I've ordered stuff from him, and I got some stuff from him this year. And the best part is, if you are a serious tool collector, he has the complete everything untouched in the box, all that kind of stuff. Or if you're a normal guy who just wants to buy a plane to use, and you tell him straight out, I'm going to use this plane. This isn't going to sit on a shelf somewhere. He'll tell you straight out, okay, you know what? I got one. It's got a hole in the bottom because somebody hung it somewhere, but there's nothing wrong with it. I'll do this and this for it, and you don't have to pay the crazy collector price because he knows you're going to use it. As long as you tell him that, you're going to get a good plane at a really decent price.
Right.
I'm like,
Yes.
but if you want the crazy collector one that's going to sit on the shelf, he's got them too.
Yeah, yeah, he does. He's like more than happy to, you need what?
Yeah.
I have that over here for your addiction.
Yep.
Come on over.
Yeah. And just down from him, two people I was really happy to see it in the marketplace. Shannon with the hand tool school and the bench that's supposedly going to be coming up, I heard.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Yep. And then Chris Wong from
Time Warp
Time
Tools.
Warp Tools, and he's Flair Woodworks on online. And
Yep.
him and I have been talking back and forth for a while, and it was great to get to actually meet him. And those planes that he has, now I want molding planes.
I know they are. I had a chance to play with a couple of them. I used like one of his rabbit planes, and one of the, I think it was an OG or something like that. Or not an OG. It was, what was it? It was just a simple round over, and that was just like one of those. These are really nice. You're asking what? Never mind. I'm getting away from you. I'm not doing this right now.
Yeah, the price that they're asking for them is actually pretty decent too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And and they're doing, it's a laminated plane, unlike like a side escapement, which is really unusual because I've heard, I know Shannon had talked about it over at his website and everything about the fact that a laminated molding plate is really unusual, and that there's always been kind of like issues with clogging up and all this other stuff. But they've managed to come up with a way to do it, and it worked out. I mean, I used a couple of them, not only that rabbit and
Yeah.
that roundover, but I mean, I know for a fact that I used a couple other ones that I can't even think what the profiles were, and I think it was because I was trying to convince myself just to get the hell away from there, so that I didn't end up buying like a full set or
Because
something.
those could fit in a bag.
They could. They could, yeah, and there's the whole issue with the blade,
Yeah.
but I could pull a Ron Hawk, which was poor Ron was he had one of his new kits there. He has several kits, of course. He has a shoulder plane kit, and then he has a smoother kit. Well, he now has a spoke shave and a block plane kit
Oh,
that you can
yeah.
make your own block
I
plane.
remember seeing
And it was funny because he tried to get around the issue of carrying a sharp object with him. He ended up deliberately dulling the plane blade for the block plane. He just put a nice, just chopped off the edge, so it was nothing more than just
piece of
a
metal.
piece of metal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we stood there and watched him try to sharpen it, and he kind of got to this point where it was just like one of those, all right, you guys can leave. We're like, no,
No.
we're not leaving until you're done.
Where are you gonna sit here?
So and talk about it, a really great guy. If
Oh,
you had
God,
a
yeah.
chance to talk with Ron, I mean, he is so personable and just so he loves just talking woodworking or just talking in general with people. I mean, he just absolutely digs it, and
Mhm.
I really enjoy just coming down there and just hanging out. And then it gets to that point where it's like, all right, you got to leave. I have real customers. No, you don't. No, I know them.
No.
They're not going to buy anything.
Yeah, I know them guys.
They're not buying anything. Trust me, because they're still going to buy me dinner.
Yeah, yeah. No, the marketplace was awesome. One other one I had a chance to. I think I mentioned it last month. I don't remember or not, but I picked up a secondhand Erlex sprayer.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually the what I consider the big one, the big home use one, the 6900, and it's missing the wrench to take the tip off. And then there's a viscosity checker, which I could make my own one of them. That's not a big deal, but that wrench is, I'd like to have one. And I talked to the guys from Erlex and I said, hey, I've been looking on your site. I've been looking all over. I haven't seen a way to just order this wrench. And they're like, yeah, here's the number. Just call them. It's like, I don't even remember, but it's really cheap. And they're like, if that's all you need, just call them and they'll send you one out. And since you were here, tell them you get a show discount and we'll get you we'll ship it to you. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And they said, well, what do you have? What are you doing with it? And I said, right now I'm not doing anything. I just picked it up. I haven't even used it yet. I don't even know what I'm doing. And they said, well, you got it secondhand, but hey, it's an Erlex machine. Here, let's show you some stuff. Yeah, I didn't buy anything from him. I told him straight out, I'm not going to buy anything from you. All I want is a wrench, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing with this thing. Here, we'll show you how to do your spray patterns, how to do your fan right, everything else. We're just glad you have our product. We don't care how you got it. And
Wow.
I'm like, that's awesome. I says, hey, when I actually use this thing on the show, would you mind some of these little tips you just told me? Would you mind doing an audio thing? Yeah, give me a call. No problem, anytime. I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
I mean, this is
fantastic.
awesome. Yeah, I've never bought any Erlex anything, and they're more than willing to help out that way. I'm like, okay, you guys just sold me on something without even trying.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh yeah. Again, it's amazing how you can just approach these
Yeah.
people and they're so willing to talk. One thing I really liked was I haven't seen him in a while is Michelle RU from RU RAS was there, and it's you always hear people talk about like the hand cut stitching and stuff like that, and it's like hand cut stitching. What are you talking about? And sure enough, he was sitting there. We ended up getting some footage for it. It helped the guys at Highland Woodworking put together something with Charles Brock, where he was interviewing Michelle RU about the whole hand stitching and what it means and how they do it and stuff like that. But it's amazing. This you think of a tool like a rasp or a file, and it's you don't do that by hand, but they do for the best rasps are hand stitched. They're actually that's how they raise the grain on it and stuff. And it's just amazing watching him do this and getting this pattern. And it's just like, that was insane. So it was really neat to have him there and to be able to answer questions. And he was so willing just to get up and be like, oh, well, if you're going to do this type of work, then you want this type of rasp. And this is the reason why you want it. And this is how you're going to use it. And if you're having trouble with it, try this method or try this or try that. And again, I don't know where, I mean, even like some of the traveling wood shows, like the wood show or the woodworking show and stuff like that. Usually there it's more about selling you the item. Sure, they might give you like one or two tips or something like that, but I've never really seen somebody take that one extra step, and that's even like when the booth is like really busy,
Yeah.
they're doing that.
Yeah. That it was. I've seen. I think I don't remember. I seen in one other place, doing the hand stitching too, and it's just like you said. They got a show in Milwaukee, and nothing wrong with the show in Milwaukee. I'm glad it's close. I drive down an hour and I get to check out this show. And I think Andy Chidwick was there last
Oh yeah.
last year, and Jim Heavey is always at those shows.
Oh
And
yeah.
and there's usually one other guy, and you go down. Well, actually, there's more than one other guy. I apologize to the wood show actually, but usually I go there to see Jim Heavey because one, he's funny, and
He's a great guy.
yeah, and he gives cool little tips where you're like, hey, that just makes sense, and you rack your head one, duh, why didn't I think of that? And then there's usually somebody else that I'm interested in that hadn't been there, like Andy Chidwick this year was awesome to see his stuff, and then there's and to buy some stuff, and it's not like going down there. I mean, down there you go to the marketplace there, and it was kind of cool that they actually did some of the classes, seminars, whatever you want to call them, in the back of the marketplace this year.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So that was
Yeah.
that was kind of different, but kind of cool. It got me to go to the marketplace where I'm like, hey, on my way in and out, I can pick this stuff up, so I'm gonna buy it anyway.
Yeah.
But somebody just going to the marketplace that might not have, like more local people that would just go there to go to the marketplace and nothing else. I don't think anybody's in travel from Wisconsin to go down to the Woodworking in America's marketplace and drive back.
Right, yeah, they're not just coming down for the day and be like, all right, honey, let's head on back.
No, but you know, a couple hours away, you can have that, and them saying, "Hey, they got these classes, and hey, they had more upstairs. I didn't even know about this." I mean, that's got to be a word of mouth thing right there. And
Right.
the more
Well, you know,
people that know about it, so
yeah, well, you know, and on top of it, the speakers they had down there were actually some of the speakers that people were paying to see. I mean, you
yeah,
had Adam Carabini, you had Roy Underhill at one point. I know, like, well, Scott Phillips didn't teach any classes in the conference portion itself, but he did teach if I remember, it was a wooden box making class
hmm
down in the marketplace. And you know, so of course you had TV personalities
yep,
like Scott Phillips, you had Tommy McDonald, you had well, Rob Cosman's not really a TV personality, but I think everybody knows who
yeah.
Rob Cosman
And
is.
Glenn Huey did one of his things down there. I mean,
Yep.
he's not TV, but if you read Popular Woodworking, you know who Glenn Huey was.
Yeah, you know Glenn Hewitt. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't miss him. Yeah, so that was really neat. But then, yeah, then once you get yourself, if you could get yourself out of the marketplace,
Yeah.
because I mean, you had like the Cinderella Museum that was there, which is just insane. You see, there was like that giant like
Yeah, that thing was ma
joiner plane.
that thing
Like,
was
what do you like hook up like
huge.
3 apprentices and a journeyman in the back to control that
I
thing? I mean,
know.
it wasn't a plane; it was more like a
It
sled.
was. I was like looking at the only thing I didn't have a chance to ask anybody, but it has to be something with shipbuilding.
Yeah, yeah, because I noticed he had a couple of huge slicks, and those slicks were bigger than what you'd use for like timber framing. It
Oh
seemed
yeah,
like so.
yeah. I'm like that has to be something with shipbuilding because that thing it had to be what I'm guessing like 2 feet wide and probably 8 feet long, if not
It,
longer.
it sure seemed like it. I mean, that was when I was standing next to him. Like,
I
what
mean,
the?
it was almost a foot off the bench, not the bench, but the big scaffolding that was holding the thing up. I'm like, holy cow! I
Yeah,
got one picture I shot out on Twitter. All it said was "Holy plane, Batman."
yeah, exactly. That that's putting it mildly. Yeah, you know, and, you know, because then when you walk through that museum, I mean, that's the traveling museum.
Yeah.
If you actually head down, you know, it's in southern Michigan where they have the main museum and stuff, and that's just I haven't had an opportunity to get there yet to see it because they usually hold an event once a year, and again, that kind of turns into like a big tool swap meet and stuff like that.
Oh, I said I could go to
That's pretty neat. You know,
Michigan.
yeah, you know, but another thing they have going on in the marketplace, again, if you don't want to buy tools, if you're just looking, you just want to have some fun, you want to check out the classes and stuff like that, like the classes in the marketplace. They have the Hand Tool Olympics, which was really pretty cool. You know, well, this is actually, I should say this, they've been going on for a while. This is the first year I actually competed. And I really wouldn't call what I did competing. I was more or less just kind of like, yeah, I can cut dovetails.
I seen you over there. You did
Yeah,
it.
you did okay. I had a knitter beat me, so I'm not even going to get into that.
I heard about that on Woodtalk. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh yeah, her husband ended up getting a hold of me today, and he's like, you know, hey, what's the deal with the knitters? And I'm like, I'll tell you about it sometime,
That
Fred. Thank you.
that is hilarious though.
But you know, members of the Society of American Furniture, period furniture, is that what it is? I can remember SAFM or whatever. They were there, and it was really neat because there was a gentleman that came up from Texas, and I happened to have caught his blog, and it's totally escaped me, and I feel really guilty about it right now. But it was really kind of a neat because he was talking about coming up and you know getting ready for it and his experiences and stuff. And he was saying like, you know, he ended up stopping by that booth, and there was a couple of people there that were like, you know, showing how to like to do some carvings. You know, like to make a shell, you know, that kind of a thing, like these really intricate ones. And again, this isn't part of the paid thing. This is the freebie
Yeah,
thing going on.
yeah.
And so, you know, he said it was a chance to watch them do it, and suddenly he was inspired to like, you know, I've got to do this. I have to try this. You know, it's something that's always intimidated me, but seeing it in person, talking with people, and having a chance to kind of get my hands on it,
hmm
you know, actually made a huge difference. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the marketplace is really cool. And then if you're lucky enough to be able to get into the conference itself, which there's always seems like there's always room available for people to pop in, whether it's a 1 day ticket or not. It's just like when you get in those classes, well, you know, I mean, the
Oh,
classes are just
the
they're really great.
yeah. To me, it's. I think I remember not I think I remember you guys talking about the difference actually on Woodtalk Online Radio. You guys went through like how the classes are kind of changing and wondering what
Mhm.
they're going to do next, and
Right.
and I and I think about it in the same way and different, and it's weird because not long before I headed down to Woodworking America, I sat and I looked around the shop and I said, "What in the hell is wrong with me? I have all this crap and I never have time to do what I want to do with it." And I just keep getting more stuff and not doing any more with it.
Right. Yes.
And I'm going through this and I'm looking at this stuff and I'm thinking and I'm thinking and I'm like, I have a dovetail jig that I picked up, and anybody who's watched any part of my podcast knows half of my shop is secondhand. Actually, more like 75%. But I picked it up, real cheap, and it's just one of them where, you clamp it on the bench, clamp the things to it. I'm not sure why I bought it, other than it was like, I think, 10 or 12 bucks. I've never used it. I have no intention of using it. And I'm looking at that, and that thing had me in the shop going, why am I doing this? And the stuff that I did pick up when I was down there, the actual tools that I got, were things that I have been wanting for a very, very long time. It's nothing that I went in and said, oh my God, I have to have this. It was stuff that I said, this is what I'm going there as part of my Woodworking America trip. I'm coming home with, these things. And I didn't actually buy anything I didn't intend on going down there for.
Right.
But there were a whole lot of other stuff I looked at and I said, no, you came to this realization beforehand. You don't need it.
Right.
Build something. So going, and the best part for me was, I went through all these classes and I went to, the first one was understanding wood, and then was liquid joinery, and then I went to that night I seen one of the dinners was about the 17th century furniture, and I went to the saw sharpening one, and I went to the combination plane one, which goes right along with the one I picked up, and I went to see Adam Carabini and Roy Underhill, and I didn't intend on seeing Graham Blackburn because I didn't know who he was, but I ended up sitting in on one of his seminars. Was so happy that I sat in on that one. All this other stuff.
Oh, yes.
Then I come home with this one book that I bought when I was there.
Uh-oh.
And I sat down 2 days later and started reading through this book. And the book that I'm reading is the same realization that I have all this stuff and I don't do anything with it, and all I keep doing is upgrading everything. And I'm only a couple chapters in, but it's the Anarchist Tool Chest from Chris Schwarz.
Okay, yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm reading this book and I'm thinking the same way that this book is going through, and this is awesome.
There is something about when you find something like that, and it's so funny because Chris is just he's another one of those amazing speakers, and he seems to connect with people on such a different level, because it always seems like I know there's a lot of people that would be like, no, I don't agree with anything he says, he doesn't work for me and stuff like that. But I swear, I think I've met far more people that something that he says, they're just like, yeah, I didn't know other people thought that way.
Well, yeah, and one of the best parts about that is I watched one of his seminars on sharpening and cambering blades. And I watched the whole thing, and afterward, just like anybody else there, so approachable, I walked up to him and I said, that's great, but I don't own water stones. I sharpen everything I have on an oil stone. What do I do differently on an oil stone than a water stone? And he looked right at me and he says, I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
He goes, but if you use oil stones, don't go buy water stones. If you're happy and you get sharp things off of them, keep using your oil stones. And here's the two guys down in the marketplace that know more about oil stones than anybody you'll ever talk to. Tell them I sent you down there. And I sat and talked to each one of them for an hour. I know more about oil stones than I ever did, and I got stuff sharp before. Holy cow, now. I'm like, that's what the marketplace is. Not the marketplace, but the whole Woodworking America is. You go down there, you watch something, and there's this inspiration of, yeah. And then you can talk to the guy who just gave you that inspiration.
Yeah. Very much so.
And then he's and the best part is any one of them, Chris or any Chris Schwarz or Brian Boggs, a bunch of people I talk to that they're like, well, yeah, that's great, and okay, this part works and that part works. That other part, I'm not sure, but here's who you talk to know about it. Not one of them is afraid to. Here, go talk to the other guy. I don't know. Or if they do, I'll tell you everything I know because it's not a big secret.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because it's if you constantly have somebody that's like, oh, I know everything. Yeah. You know what? I bet you probably don't.
No.
But there was one thing, and you kind of alluded, like we were talking about this on Wood Talk Online radio, and when Mark unfortunately didn't make it this year, but
Mhm.
Shannon was there, and Shannon didn't quite attend as many classes as he had planned on
I
doing.
think he was a little tied up with his booth.
Yeah, he was slightly busy. Yeah,
Which
definitely.
is good though.
Yeah, good. Yeah, definitely. Well, in its own way, because I think he was about ready to pull his hair out a couple times there,
Yeah.
but in a good way, I
Yeah.
guess. But one thing I think that I have to kind of like put this out there. If nobody is aware of this, if anybody's not aware of this, I've attended every single Woodworking in America except for the Valley Forge one. That damn Valley Forge one I couldn't make it to. Stupid new job. But anyways, so I have this real perspective of being there from like the very first time it ever happened, which
Mhm.
was in Berea back in 2008, when it was just this like it's like the closest thing to a hippie convention I think I ever went to or something. It was just like
Oh yeah.
it was so weird, because it was just like it had never been done and all this other stuff. I don't know, maybe hippie convention's not the right thing, but anyways though, and then watching it expand from just like really the small. It's like going to like a small school where you know absolutely everybody, and then suddenly by the time you're getting ready to graduate from the school, it's this monstrous thing where it has like 18 campuses and stuff like that. And that's how I kind of felt about it. So it's like I go from this small thing where you literally knew like everybody that was there and it was very intimate, it was very small, to what is much this larger thing now. And I had my doubts about it, but I think with it being larger, it definitely it's working. I think
Mhm.
it works.
Yeah. And I went to my first one was the one down in Chicago.
Okay.
And because prior to that, I found out about the other one like a week before the one before, the one before the one in Chicago. I found out a
Yeah.
week before, and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna make this. And I went to the Chicago one, and I've been going ever since. And honestly, only because I may have another idea, I may not go next year. I think I'm gonna end up doing every other year, and it's only because there are other things I want to do.
Right.
I think I've reserved it's going to be about the same if I take a week-long class somewhere on something specific that I really want to get into that one thing,
Right.
and then every other year do the Woodworking in America instead.
Right.
It's,
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though. I think for anybody that's considering going to like something like Woodworking in America, you do to some degree have to have time off at some point. It's not like
yeah.
being the person that holds like being able to go to like to the Super Bowl every single year, because it's always going to be just that much different. It's sure it's football. It's the biggest football game of the year, but it's going to be just slightly different. Now, Woodworking in America, by no means whatsoever am I saying that Woodworking in America is exactly the same thing every single year.
Oh
This
no.
is the second year it was in Cincinnati.
Hmm.
To some degree, other than the fact that the convention hall is exactly the same, except for the fact that maybe there's a few more people down in the marketplace. Really, when it comes down to it, Woodworking in America is still a great event, but you get to a point where let's get serious. Woodworking is a finite topic. There's only so many things that you can talk about, and the way that you kind of shake it up a little bit is you get somebody with a new perspective to kind of like say, well, okay, so teacher A talked about this subject this way. I'm teacher B, and I'm going to talk about it in this manner, and that's how you kind of learn. Is you get these different perspectives. I'm at the point now with Woodworking in America for myself, which makes me think that kind of like you, maybe I need to take next year off or something. I've attended probably the vast majority of the classes, and over the several years, a lot of the classes are repeated.
Yes.
Now,
Now you
if you,
have to do that to some point because there's a
it was
bunch of
finite.
there's a bunch of people. Well, and you think about it, there's a lot of people there that weren't there last year, and
That's exactly
so
it.
those
Yeah.
guys didn't get a chance to take those classes.
Exactly, and that's the thing is, it really when it comes down to it, and I felt like I kind of like I didn't get this across the right way. At least when I was listening back to Wood Talk Online, is if you've never attended a Woodworking in America, I think everybody has to have that experience at
Oh
least
God, at
once.
least once. Yeah.
At least once, because all the classes that I've attended, if the first time I attended it, I was just like, I can't write stuff down fast enough.
Oh yeah.
They've got to be having a recording of this or something. Where can I buy it? How am I gonna remember all this information? And I went home and I remember having a headache for like the next week because it was just so much information overload. And it was hard to like get it all in there. And if you come back another, a second year in a row, that's your chance to like, okay, well, there was these classes that I missed because I was so busy taking these ones. I can catch those, and maybe I can retake this one. And again, not every single subject is repeated, but enough of them, the general topic is repeated enough that you can get it. But then again, after 4 years of it, it's like one of those.
That's the same thing after 3 years. I'm thinking, I think I'm gonna take a little bit of a and then I know how I am. I might end up going next year anyway because once it gets
Yeah,
there, it's like, oh, it's here again.
exactly. Because once it comes around, you're like, all right, there's enough. Because it's like for me this year, there were enough different classes, a different topic. Like I said, Charles Brock was there.
Yes.
And then like just like you, Graham Blackburn, I was like, who? I mean, I know him, but I don't know if I want to attend it.
And the thing is,
You know,
I ended up getting there in a different way too because I went to I went to Brian Boggs' very first class on Friday, and the class when Graham Blackburn was given that I think I actually seen you in the same class. The was it planing for a perfect surface.
yes,
Brian Boggs was going to be giving a seminar at the same time about tenons, and I really liked his first one, so I was going to see this next one. And he said, hey, if anybody in here has seen my first one, I'm sorry, but this first half hour is a review because the people who haven't seen it need to understand a couple things from my first seminar. And I thought, all right, I've seen it. I'll go watch this Graham guy for half hour, and then I'll come back and watch the rest of this. I couldn't leave Graham's class.
right, yeah.
I,
I don't. And see, the thing is what Graham was teaching was pretty much a very similar class that's been taught at all the other ones.
yeah,
But it's this fresh perspective from somebody else who's coming in. And the funny thing is how I ended up getting in that class was I think I was off at I think I can't remember whose class it was, but it was like one of those. I kind of got to the point that I'm like, all right, I kind of have I've seen this topic before, and I'm not really getting something new from this particular person. So the nice thing is, if you're not familiar with Woodworking America, there's all these classes. They ask you to kind of put together a schedule, but you don't have to keep it. You can get up and float from class to class.
yeah.
So you could actually take every single class. It's just that you might not sit through the entire thing.
Yeah, we had both had planned on being in something different, and ended up seeing Graham Blackburn, and happy we did.
Yeah, exactly. And then that was the thing was it was the guy down at Elkhead, one of the guys down at Elkhead Tools, Gary, one of the owners, had said to me before I headed up there. He goes, hey. But Graham might not be on your schedule, but you might want to check him out because I had taken a class with him and he completely rearranged my thoughts on what how to do use planes. And he goes, and I got home and I tried it and I've never turned back. I've stuck with the Graham way, and I'm like, all right, I'll check it out,
Yeah.
whatever.
I've adjusted my smoothing plane already, and it's working so much better.
Yeah, exactly. And I came up there, and I think I came in like about halfway through the class or something because I was kind of like just walking by. I'm like, oh, Graham, I'm gonna go ahead and pop in there and see what he's doing. And I was kicking myself because I hadn't been there for the whole thing. And he's such a great teacher. And the way that he comes across, you normally won't find that. And that's the thing is it's like one of those, again, it was a topic that, like I said, I've seen it before. I've seen it at least 2 or 3 times now. And I'm like, I really didn't think I was going to get anything, but they managed to bring in somebody who, as far as I was concerned, he stole the show.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, his
Nailed
classes
it.
were fantastic.
Yep, he did a great job. And like you, I had heard of him before. I knew he had books out there. I've actually seen some of his stuff before, but I'd never seen him speak. Didn't know enough about him, and am so happy that I seen him. The other thing that I'm happy to see is they did mix in some different stuff, some stuff I had not seen before. They had a veneering class. They had some of the Japanese tools.
Right.
They had some sculpting classes, and then they had some stuff that was more for like a beginner level type thing,
Right.
where up till now, it's always kind of been geared more toward the intermediate to beyond intermediate level.
Right.
And they had some of the beginner stuff and some of the other things. They did, and you have to repeat some stuff because, well, somebody didn't see it. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it was really cool to see some of the different things. I was happy to see the sculpting in there. That was something that I'm trying more and more, and I'm getting more and more interested in it, and I'm trying to incorporate some of it into some of my stuff. So I'm like, well, that was really cool to see some of the professionals showing me how they do this stuff.
Yeah, and that was kind of like where I was heading into also. I'm like, oh, this is something I haven't done because, you know, uh, That again, that's like one of those. Originally, everything was supposed to be geared around hand tools, and
Hmm.
then when you came down the one in Chicago, they did the design conference. Of course, then that damn Valley Forge one was the hand tool one, which I didn't go to.
Yeah.
Always gonna burn me. I'm never gonna get that card punched, and then that's when they went to the one in Cincinnati, which is what they
Hmm.
then started introducing power tools. And we had talked about this, like where we kind of wish they would incorporate more of the power tools, because really when it came down to it, the only person that was doing anything power tool to a large extent was Glenn Huey.
Yeah.
Where he was kind of incorporating those. Where like last year they had like Michael Fortune doing the
The
bandsaw
bandsaws. Yep.
yeah, and doing all that, and he's an excellent teacher. And I realize that it's impossible to get all these people that we name because of contract issues,
Oh yeah.
or just the money, or they have conflicts with like other things that they're doing. But again, it's just like one of those. For myself, I think I do need to have a little bit of a breather in there, and probably like you, I probably will do the same thing where next year will come around. I'll be like, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go.
I
You
don't
know,
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stay away, but
yeah.
part of me really like either Andy Chedwick offers a class, and Charles Brock offers one. There's a couple other people that do offer it's the sculpted rocking chair.
Hmm.
And if it comes down to you can do this or that, I think I'm gonna have to go make a chair.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because well, that's one thing is that again, kind of like in that, I feel really guilty, like I'm bashing the hand that feeds me when I talk bad about the show, but it's not really. I don't think it's talking bad. It's trying to give it that constructive criticism that says, listen, you guys have done an amazing thing,
Oh yeah.
and you don't want to lose. The shine that you have. I realize it's going to get tarnished a little bit, but at the same time, though, it's one of those. It's an amazing experience for anybody that hasn't been there, or maybe who hasn't been there in a couple of years. I will always, if anybody ever asks me, is it worth the money?
Definitely.
And I'd be like, have you gone? When was the last time you went? If you haven't gone in a couple of years, or you've never gone, you have to experience it
Yep.
at least once. You absolutely have to.
Oh yeah.
But if you would have the opportunity to take a week-long class doing something that you really always thought would just be the most would be the bee's knees,
Hmm.
or Woodworking in America, I would almost have to go with do the week-long class, because the price is almost identical
Yeah.
when put in the travel and the hotel and the conference and everything. Yeah, and it was funny because I think I had mentioned one thing that would be really neat was if they offered something where there was almost like a class-like experience. Because the issue is, when you think about it, the vast majority of Woodworking America is all lecture. They tried their hand with doing kind of like a lab experience, but it didn't work out the way they wanted to. We talked about this, where it was like
Yeah.
a vast majority of people kind of stood
Stood
around. They
around. They
didn't.
were too scared to pick up the planes or something.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't jump in like they were supposed to, and
Yep.
so that doesn't really help you out at all. But we had joked around about the idea. I said, of like what if they did something where like you came in a couple days early before the conference started, and you took a class with one of these people, or you went to like the Kelly Mailer School, or is it too far from there? So maybe Kelly would like rent out a few benches, and they could have a special class that would cover whatever. You could have like basics in there, like, hey, 2 days before the conference starts, let's do 2 days of sharpening, or
Or something. Yeah, we're
yeah.
going to do plane sharpening, saw sharpening, and this stuff at this one, and we're going to do basics on setting planes up in this other one. Which one do you want to go to? Yeah,
Yeah, or we're gonna build this, or we'll run over the basics of how to do this, or something like that.
yeah, it'd be kind of
And
cool.
yeah, and incorporate that into the conference. That would be a really neat experience, and I think it would open doors, for other people, especially those that are returning, who are
Yes.
saying, the classes are great, but I've seen these already,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's worth my money when I could, potentially be doing this. But it's just like anything, though. It's you've gotta change and grow in order to to stay alive
Hmm.
when it comes down to it. So I don't know. I'm sure they'll come up with something. They're pretty good about kind of. I mean, they've rolled with the punches pretty well. It went from just being a hand tool event to design and a little bit of power tool here and there. So
Yep. And the marketplace has grown. Everything has changed.
yeah, yeah,
I think that they will be able to change, and I mean, their marketing is amazing anyway. I mean, they're going to know what the people want. I mean, they sent surveys out to people I know already that we already responded with what we think should be next too.
Oh yeah, I filled out my survey the other day
Yep.
and was like, listen, I just want to let you know I'm not being mean, but
And mine was, hey, I loved it, but I want to see more of the sculpting stuff and some of the odd stuff too. And
yeah,
I just like I'm saying right now, it is one of the best things as a woodworker. If you haven't had a chance to go, get there. And
yes,
and it's for me to sit down and talk to Chris Schwarz and talk to Charles Brock and ask Ron Herman the best way to do the sharpening of this one saw, and just all these different little things that you go through. Everybody there to see these people is the inspiration that says, hey, you know what? It's summer's winding down. It's time to get my butt back in the shop and look at all this cool stuff I just picked up again, and not just the stuff I picked up, but the knowledge you pick up, the
right.
inspiration of going there and saying, yeah, that's why I do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's nothing like it. And the best thing about it, really, when it comes down to it, also is the fact that you get to sit around with a bunch of people that are just thinking exactly like you. Where else are you going to go and suddenly find like 300-400 people that are sitting around going, "Oh my God, that's the coolest chisel I've ever seen,"
Yeah.
or getting excited because you're watching something like Megan Fitzpatrick showing you how to cut dovetails successful, and you're literally watching it up on almost the equivalent of like a jumbotron and going, "Yeah, she's almost got it down to the baseline." And there really is no experience like that anywhere else.
No, it is great. And but it's one of the same thing like you were saying. I am more than happy that I went. And next year I'll probably end up going again, even though I think right now I'm going, I should and I think part of that is the conference almost pushes you, especially when, I go down there and I see all these, to what me as famous people, in the
Yeah.
woodworking world.
Oh, it was nice to see you too.
You know,
I'm just kidding.
so, I mean, you see all the people showing you all this stuff and doing all these things, and it almost pushes you. And I had the same feeling last year when I came back home of, okay, I'm glad I went, but I don't know if I'm going to go again.
Yeah.
Because I think there's these other things I should do. Because it almost pushes you to want to do something else.
Yeah. It was funny because was it last year or maybe the year before? I was pretty honored. Chris Shores had picked up on something I said, and I'm like, the problem is now that we're leaving, we're heading into the morning phase. And this is the morning phase, not as in like the sun is coming up. This is I am so depressed. I
Yes.
am so sad because it feels like a breakup. When you leave, you suddenly, it's the most amazing feeling you've had when you were there. And then suddenly there is you go from this amazing high to suddenly you're just like, I don't want to get out of bed
Yeah.
because I'm heading to a class. I can't believe this is happening. And it's funny because I think like this year, we had the Wood Talk Online shortly afterwards,
Hmm.
and it almost went from, and I was joking around about this with Shannon and Mark at one point. And I don't remember if I even said this on the show, but it was almost like I went from the mourning phase. I took it to the next level, which was the anger phase, which was I can't believe that you left me. How could you leave me? You're the most horrible person in the world. And then there will be that quiet point where like, I'm not going to talk about it. I don't want to talk to you. You're out of my life. Leave me alone. I never
Yep.
want to see you again. And then a year later, it's going to come back around,
I
and I'm
love
suddenly
you.
going to be like, "Oh, you're inviting me? We've got to get together. It's been so long since I've seen you."
Yep.
And that's exactly it. And it's weird that you feel this way about a show, but it gets so into you. It gets so
Well,
it's just amazing. It,
it's three. I mean, and I went down on Thursday. You went down late on Thursday. I mean, it's 3 to 4 days of seriously intense. Everybody there feels the same. Everybody there thinks the same about woodworking. You may have a different spin on it. You may have a different thought about power tools versus hand tools versus whatever, and what kind of, but everybody's the same idea. We're all here to do woodworking, learn about woodworking, talk about woodworking. I mean, and if you go to the dinners, I mean, basically you're going from 9 in the morning till 9:30 at night doing nothing
Yeah.
but woodworking stuff for 3 days.
Yeah. And the best thing about it is you can easily go down there and not know a soul going down there. And I guarantee that by the time you leave, you've made at least 2, 3 new friends that you will, email with and everything else. I mean, I talked with people at the airport that were like, I talked to some guy on WoodNet Forum and I don't even know who he is, but I met him down here and we went out every single night. We did stuff and we got each other's emails. And we're hanging out and all this other stuff. We're planning on, doing this and blah, 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 blah. And it's like one of those, where else are you going to go and get that experience from, like something woodworking?
Yeah. I mean, there's people that live in Wisconsin that I met down there last year, and we seen each other. We live about an hour apart. We see each other Woodworking America every year.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. Yeah. We definitely, if you end up going next year, and Sam and I have, my wife and I have a thing, like she always goes to this photo conference every year out in Vegas, and she said, well, 2012 I'm going to skip. And I said, well, I should do the same thing with Woodworking America. I have a feeling we both will back out of that and we'll be going to our separate conferences.
Probably.
Yeah. So it's just like, but the funny thing is like the blogger community this year was we all got together and it was just, yeah, I think there's probably some laws that were broken at one point, but it's so funny because I know we weren't the only group that was having way too much fun. It really, it's so interesting.
I didn't get a chance to play this year.
Trust me, it might be better if you didn't.
I've seen some of the pictures. Yeah, I think I might be.
Yeah, at least you're not banned from the dollar trolley, so. It's not official, but I have a feeling if we show up next year, they're like, no, rent a car.
Nope, it'll be just like us with the Woodworking America. They will have forgotten all about it. You'll be on there again.
Exactly it. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's definitely, it's an experience. And even though I talk bad about it at the moment, I still highly recommend it.
Oh yeah, I came back with an inspiration and a you kind of get in a funk with some of the stuff, especially where my wife and I have been working on the group home for so long. It's just like I don't, and there it's not like working in the shop. You got a half broke down contractor saw with a miner saw that you don't want to use in the shop because it's for cutting greenwood for the decks, and it's you're working with the tools that are basically falling apart. You've got wood that is basically from the big box stores. There ain't a damn thing that's straight. And you got to paint everything, and you just got to do it to get it done. And you're almost soured on it by the time you're done with a project like that. And then to go from that to going down to Woodworking America, and you're like, yay, a new zest for woodworking.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just, oh man. So hey, one more question for you about Woodworking America. Now, did you make it to the Ron Herman combination plane?
Yes.
Since you had that record?
I did, and it was great. I actually got to sit up front and watch all the little ins and outs of the 45, and now I want a 55 too. But
thank you, Ron.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. I went down with the intention of trying to pick up a 45. I thought about maybe doing a 55, but I'm like, I don't know. And they didn't have one anyway, so I'm glad that they didn't, because I'm going to try to master this thing first. And I got to ask Ron about different blades for the 45, because basically people do rabbit's grooves and beading with the 45, and that's pretty much the blades that come with it. And I asked him about, what about other blades? I says, are there cove blades? Are there? And he says, no. And I said, oh, okay. And he goes, but and Ron is amazing to get a chance to see him talk, because he's funny, he's informative, it's fun to watch him too. He pretty much said, go and find some blades at a flea market, or talk to one of the tool dealers, and some of the real off-ball ones that, buy a 1/4 inch and a 3/8 and a half and grind your own.
Oh,
and I'm
there
like,
you go.
Ha ha ha. And I'm like, you know what? If I do this, why do I need a 55 when I can do coves and beads and rabbits? I can do all this stuff with this one. It's just going to take a couple more setups. Big deal. I'm not doing it professionally. I can take my time.
There you go. Yeah. See, and again, it's because you have that access to somebody like that right there who's going to take your questions.
And you think about it, and you're like, okay, why didn't I think about just grinding my own in the first place? I do it with other stuff. Well, because it's not a cheap plane, and you don't generally buy a plane blade for a plane and then grind the hell out of it right away. But then again, hey, it's an old blade anyway. You're buying the cheap ones that nobody wants.
There you go. Oh, that's good.
So yeah, I got a chance to see that one. And the one right before, actually on Sunday, I had a Ron Herman day. I seen his saw sharpening demystified one, and then the combination plane one right afterward. And
Okay.
I was very happy I went to both of them. It was a good way to end out the show. It was pretty cool.
Very nice. Yeah, I have Ron's saw sharpening DVD, so I imagine that was probably pretty much the kind of very similar, just Ron doing it in front of you.
Yeah, yeah, and actually he had people come up and say, okay, here, get up here and look, see the difference in this one and this one, and I mean, he had half the class up there saying, here, you need to see this. It's
Yeah,
not on,
that's not some,
it's not on the screen, right? Come on up here.
yeah, yeah. That's not something that you're going to be sitting down and watching. That's interactive.
Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, the I think we both had talked about it already, but the Graham Blackburn one, that was one I didn't plan on going to at all, and I was really happy that I went to see that one. Um,
Yeah,
I think,
that was a nice little sleeper one. That was great.
yeah, that was one where I'm like, I've heard the name before. Yeah, go check it out. That I literally have came home and taken two of my planes and changed them, and not that much. I didn't really change them all that much because I looked at them. I'm saying, hey, I wasn't all that far off of what I was doing with this. Let's try, move this up a little bit, close this off a little. Let's see if it makes a difference. And oh my God, I mean, I took a piece of crap 2x4 and made it just perfect. I mean, it's like touching glass. I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm like, whoa, just that little bit of difference.
Yeah. Yeah, he really shone some light on some stuff that was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. I did not get a chance. Did you get a chance to see any of the Japanese tools seminars at all?
No, no, I didn't. But I heard that they were actually pretty good.
Okay.
I know Jay Van Arden.
Yeah, Jay Van
Yeah,
Arsdale. Yep.
yeah, Arsdale. Yeah. I know. Somebody was joking around that like sometimes he goes off on a little bit more of a tangent. I'm like, hey, it's my kind of guy.
Yeah, I should have went to that one for sure.
Yeah. But at the same time, though, I heard that it was really good. That as long as he stayed within his what he was doing, didn't go too far out of it. It was definitely was really really good.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see any of his stuff. I wished I would have. The other one that I wasn't sure. Actually, we both went to different nighttime seminars. I went to the dinner with Peter Folsby.
Okay. Yeah.
Folsby, and that was the 17th century one, and he is a riot.
Yeah.
Oh man, he is just
Yeah. He kind of
hilarious.
strikes me as the type.
He is hilarious to listen to. It was the food, something got messed up with the food, and then the place was goofy and he just took all who cares about that stuff, it was just great because to sit and watch him, and the same place fixed everything that was wrong the night before on Saturday night, and that's where Ron Herman gave his talk. And if you have never seen pictures of Ron Herman's shop, you should.
I heard that was pretty spectacular. Like way too much metal going on in there.
Oh my, it was.
And not like there's anything attached with the motor.
No, no. There's some stuff in there with the motor. There's planes piled on top of them.
You got to have some sort of support table.
Oh, he goes, yeah, there's a table saw. He goes, you can see we pile that stuff on there. We use it every once in a while. And it's drawers full of 55s.
Oh wow.
Drawers full of 45s. And I'm not talking like, a drawer with 2 or 3. I'm like 10 55s in one drawer. He goes, yeah, that's part of them. You're like,
Wow.
what? And then he explains, because if anybody doesn't know, Ron Herman has a business that they build and or restore homes and when they're restoring something, the way he explained it was if we're restoring something and somebody walks in and says, oh, you did a great job there, we've failed. Because if they come in and don't notice what we did what we're supposed to.
No, okay, gotcha. Oh, yeah.
So he goes, it's supposed to completely blend in. They use the same tools. They try to find the same age wood that's in the place. The finish is mixed the same way in the same things. They use, the plumb bobs are period plumb bobs.
Wow,
everything.
that's insane.
You know, so
That's really giving us major reproduction. Like,
yeah, because and part of it is because, some of the historical societies that they work with require them that you can't use power tool. You have to make this the way they made it.
okay,
And pretty much sometimes they have to be in full garb to do it because it's on a on a living museums kind of place, and they have to
oh,
be dressed up to do it. He says, and other times it's just someone's house that wants it perfect. It
oh
has to
wow.
be exactly like it was then. Fix it. And he goes, and then there's other people that just have a lot of money and want it built like that.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, here's some cash I'm throwing at you.
Yeah.
No, but that is really because I knew that he was a house right, and that he was doing. I had heard that he did a lot of this stuff with hand tools only, and it's like one of those. I just assumed that it was like, I just love using them that much. I didn't realize so much that it was because
No.
he's doing this period reproduction because that has to be
Yeah.
for historical
Yep. And
purposes.
part of it is because it has to be, and others are because they want it to be that way. And the way he put it is, okay, we have at least one of every year plane for that type of plane that we use from the time it was made until they stop doing reproductions. Because if they have something from 1890, or they have something from 1910, we have to use the right plane on the job because it's not going to produce the same thing otherwise.
Right.
He says
Okay.
you can't bring in tools to some of these places that are made after or before. If they would have used this plane, you bring that plane.
Right.
And I'm like,
Okay.
oh wow. So it's not like you can just say, okay, I have a whole bunch of number five planes. No, no, you have to have a number five for every period you may work in.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm like, how?
Oh, wow.
That was interesting. And then in the same thing with uh, Peter Folsby. I mean, he does stuff even older. He splits his own logs and does all that stuff. And
Right.
do I personally want to do this stuff? No. But do I find it fascinating and to know? It's like, to me, it's like knowing how to do addition and subtraction. You need to understand how the addition and subtraction and multiplication works. You can't just plug it into a calculator.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, the result may come out really weird because you hit it wrong and you'll never know it's wrong.
Yeah, no kidding.
So to me, it's like this is amazing to see how they've done this. And the more I'm getting into doing hand tool work, the more interesting this stuff becomes to me. Going, oh, hey, that's really cool, and now I got even more hand tools.
Right. Oh man. Yeah, it's amazing how it just yeah, it keeps on growing and getting bigger and multiplying.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I'm still in the more hand tools I use. I mean, I'm still a power tool guy. I love the in the shop. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I'll
it's hard to get away from them.
oh yeah, but at least now I know. Okay, I only have a 6-inch joiner, but I can put something through the planer up to 13 inches. Well, at one time I didn't know. Well, I don't know how to do it because I got to break it down to 6 inches because I got to joint that edge. No, I don't. I can hand plane one side, make it flat enough to put through that power planer, and it'll be just fine.
Yep.
I'm not going to take the time to flatten the whole thing by hand, but I know how to do one side good enough to get it through that big old machine.
Exactly. Yep, been there, done that.
Once it's all through the machines, at the end, to me, there's no substitute for my miner saw. It breaks down stock. I don't cut angles with it. I cut them all by hand or either on the table saw with my miner gauge, or I cut them by hand.
Right.
My miner saw is a 12-inch, very loud thing that breaks down stock real quick. That's what
Yeah.
it does, and it does it well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very nice coarse tool.
Yeah. I mean, in my miner saw, I've got a 10-root blade on that sucker. That thing will cut the end really nice, and I never use it for what it should be used for.
It's funny after a while that happens.
Now that I got the Bad Axe tool behind me, yeah, I'll be using that even less.
Yeah, no kidding. Gonna be accumulating a lot of dust. And not because of the being covered from making the cuts itself.
No, no, that's got enough of it. I got to clean up. No.
That's great.
Oh man. So,
Oh,
well,
cool.
I think we both got a good or both of us had a good time at Woodworking America. Both of us had a little different stuff
Oh, heck
we ended
yeah.
up doing, but it was definitely worth going. And anybody who hasn't gone, make sure you go. And no doubt, I'll probably be there next year, even though I'm thinking of taking a week-long class instead. But I'll probably be there.
Yeah, like I said, you go through the mourning phase, and then apparently now the anger phase, and then the denial phase will kick in. But
Yep,
yeah,
my phases are just a little behind you, but I'm sure by the time Woodworking America comes, we'll both be in a "I love you" again phase.
exactly. I can't believe I would ever said anything bad.
At least it's not one we have to go through the drunk dialing phase with.
Well, you never know. That could be coming up. I just haven't experienced it yet. So sweet.
All right. All right, man. Well, you have a good one. I'll talk to you later.
All right, take care. See ya.
Yeah. You've been listening to Ravinheart Renditions, a woodworking podcast. Thanks for listening.